Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shamika and this is Check the Rhymes. I am super excited to be here with y'all, and I'm so glad that you are joining me. Y'all, it's been a minute, but I'm back. I had to take a little bit of a break, a breather, work on some healing, all the things. But anywho, I am back. I am excited about today's show because picture it. The year was around 1989-ish, and my Gen Xers will absolutely remember this song, Don't Make Me Over. I don't know about y'all, but when that cover came out, I wore that thing out with my little boom box, trying to hit the play and record at the same time when you hear it on the radio. Don't do me like that, y'all. Y'all remember that. Anyway, in the building today, y'all, I have singer Sybil. She is here to talk about, I'm going to talk about that song, but I want to talk about her career and more. And she's also going to answer your fan submitted questions. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss today's show. Welcome to Check the Rhymes, Sybil. How are you?
I am well, Shamika. I'm really well. I'm well.
I am so excited that you are here because I was just saying in my intro that when Don't Make Me Over came out, I was sitting by that radio with my play and record, trying to prep it so I could get it.
I don't know if that makes me old or what, but real talk is it's funny when I think about that. That's exactly the time it was.
Yeah.
Because I remember subsequently when other types of material like DATs and CDs, I was like, that's not gonna last. That's not gonna last. Boom. Okay. It's gone beyond that. Okay?
Right. I still will get a CD. So.
Yes, me too. I promise you I do, because I like to hear it I like to hear what I have in the stream. Yeah.
Well, I still have albums. Like I collect vinyl, so I still have actual records that I love to listen. I love to listen to that. Like,
yes,
there's nothing like that crackle when you put it on. Put the needle on there.
On the right. I knew you were going to say that. I love it. I love a record player. I think actually all of us. My dad has one. My mom. I have one because we have old vinyl. My parents are old jazz heads. And so you can't get like the early, you're talking about Thelonious Monk and Miles Davis and all that. You can't get that. You cannot get that. You can, but it's not quite the same.
Right. Yeah, I know, and we'll get to the interview in just a second. But since you brought that up, I was trying my hardest to find Billy D. Williams, his jazz album.
Wow.
And nobody knew what I was talking about. It took me, I had to find it overseas.
That's right. That's right. Look, some of my records I can't find in the US. But I have friends and people that will say, I found this in such a, and they send it to me. So I totally get it. Yeah. Vinyl is hard to find and it's expensive. I could make a killing off of the vinyl that I have of my old stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess the biggest question is, where have you been? What have you been up to? Catch us up. Oh my God. We're old friends. Catch us up.
But the thing is that, I'd never really stopped singing. I stopped making records in the U.S. and it was not at any fault of anyone's. The way that music had changed it was just apparent that there was a shift. There was a pivot in what they were looking for in terms of music. And I really, that's not it. That was me. I felt like, and so I had to make a decision as to whether or not I wanted to travel, be away from home. And so I did that for a number of years. After I did Don't Make Me Over, I had major success in Europe and around and in a lot of the Asia, some of the African countries. And so I did really well for a long time without having made another record, without having to, after Don't Make Me Over, and then I had a couple after that. But for the most part, from 1993 onwards, I was moving and shaking in and out around Europe and in Asia and Africa and parts of the world that people were like, you were there? I mean, I'm talking about Finland, Sweden, Switzerland. And I still do a lot of that type of work. But it's funny because when I went into the music industry, I was somewhat of an anomaly because I already had one college degree. And that was something that was it was rare. Let me just be very honest, because most of the people my colleagues, they had high school diplomas or they acquired a high school equivalency because all they ever wanted to do was music. Me, I wanted to be an attorney. So I knew that required that I changed. I happened to be able to sing. And so for me, singing and music was something that I loved to do. So for a long time, like I said, I made records and traveled and did projects that did really well. And people think they talk about Don't Make Me Over, but in all actuality, that was not my biggest song internationally. I mean, if we're talking about around the world, it wasn't. It was a Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes song that I covered called The Love I Lost. And it was funny. Gamble and Huff were very excited with the revenue that they was generated from that record because of it. And I was excited to be able to do that for a writing team that looked like me. And so, and I think that that was really why I was most excited, because I had covered other people's songs, but the writers, they didn't look like me, and they didn't represent a generation or a group that were reminiscent of who we heard in our homes. Do you know what they were?
Right.
And so, and so for me, I've done that. I've since gone on and gotten another degree, and I've worked in higher education for a long time, to be honest with you. And I absolutely love it. I feel as if being able to kind of merge my loves is everything. It's really everything. And so the creative side of me made me effective as an instructor in college. And my students think it's the coolest thing ever. They think it's the coolest thing ever. They're like, you know who my teacher is, you know who my professor, and so that is the coolest thing for me. When they connect with you because they respect what they saw or what their mothers and grandmothers, their families. And so when they found out, a lot of them had no clue. They just thought I was a cool teacher. That's what they thought. And then the word got out, so needless to say, we never, ever know. And so I've been busy and I still travel. I still travel quite a bit to the UK because that was my second home for a long time.
Oh, wow. Wow. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because we, originally we were talking about how it was hard to find records here, but they're over there. And there's been several artists that I've spoken to over the past several years where they talk about they found that over here, we tend to just push artists to the side, whereas, going over to the UK or other countries, it's like you guys are embraced. Like, what is that? Like, what do you think it is?
You know what the thing is? It's unfortunate, but the US, we're so trendy, and it's like you're the flavor of the month.
Right.
When you once may have liked chocolate, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, that's not. You got to be chocolate with something else.
Yeah.
But there, chocolate still is okay. You know what I'm saying? It's just they really honestly embrace the artist and not the time. You're not relegated to a time. If you had a hit record in England, I'm not being funny, you can still work off that record. And I've managed to do that for a long time. I mean, a long time.
Right.
I've managed to do it. I go to the Philippines. I go to South Africa quite frequently. And these are on the backs of records that were done in 1989, 1990, and 93. And so when you think about that, I think that the U.S., because we base everything on what we see, we've become a very visual country. And a lot of those countries don't have the same levels of access to video. And they just don't. That's not the thing for them. It's hearing the music. Dancing to the music. I go to Brazil. Brazilian. I don't speak a bit of Portuguese, but I promise you, when they dig into the crates, as they say. They dig into the album, and they dig into. There are songs that are hits there that I have to do there that were never ever released as a single in the U.S. or any other country, but they are hits there because Brazil is just it's a special place. Outside of Africa, it's number 2 in terms of people of color, Black people. And so ideally, what goes along with that? Our rhythm, our vibe, our culture, who we are. They bring all of that because we're all, when the ship sailed, when the ship sailed, voluntarily or involuntarily, we went to different places.
Right.
So a lot of us went to Brazil. And so, needless to say, so the vibe, the energy, the soul, what they love and embrace is so reminiscent of R&B and soul classic, Southern soul, to be honest with you. And that two steps, if they love that. And so I have learned that you embrace who embraces you. You show love and you go where people love on you. I don't want to be where I'm just tolerated. I want to be where I am, supported. And that means everything. It means everything. And so, I had mortgages that had to be paid and I couldn't, I had things to do. And so I could not trust and rely solely on a country who, go in it. I love the US of A.
Yes.
But I also love performing and I love working. And so if other other areas of the globe allowed me the ability to do that and to thrive and to take care of the things that are important to me, then I'm going.
Yeah, I don't blame you one bit, because that brings up another point. So many times people will, just because they may only know of one or two songs, they write people off as a one-hit wonder.
Yes.
And it drives me insane.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
And I don't know if that's just a US thing, or it sounds like it could be, because, like y'all be working everywhere else.
Yes. Yeah. And the funny thing is that it's also regional. Someone said, it was so funny. When someone said to my manager one time, she only had one. He said, no, she had 3 top dance records before she had Don't Make Me Over. I was in Billboard before I did Don't Make Me Over.
Yeah.
The thing is people understand the genres that they connect with. I was a house head. I'm a underground house head. Mm-hmm. And so I had Falling in Love, Let Yourself Go, My Love Is Guaranteed, Can't Wait on Tomorrow, 4 dance records. And 3 of them were on the charts, know. And then the thing that the trajectory that changed it all was Don't Make Me Over, because suddenly I was being played not only in the clubs, but mainstream radio. Yeah. And that was the difference. And so, so we have these discussions, because, I'll go on shows and go on with other groups of women, and they wonder why. They're like, well, why is Sybil closing the show? And they said, well, in this country, she's had 7 top records, and so, yeah, though you may have a big record, you had 1, maybe 2, here.
Right.
And so I have no problem whatsoever with opening for anyone. Mm-hmm. I have, because the show that you're going to get, but if I go on first, is the show you go get if I go on last.
That's right.
And so my thing is just, I'm always ready. And most recently I was excited because I got to work with Will Downing. Will and I have known each other for years.
Will, this show is because of Will Downing.
Are you serious?
Name Check the Rhymes without Will Downing. So.
Oh my God. Yes. And Will is my boy. Will actually, before he had the mainstream, mm-hmm. he was on an independent dance label, as Wally Jump Jr. So and he did house records.
Yeah.
And I remember, may she rest in peace, Gail Sky King was one of the first female DJs I ever knew in New York. She used to spin at the Paradise Garage. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sorry, at Silver Shadow and oh my God, it's a club in New York. Oh yeah, it'll come to me. But she was one of the first female DJs. She was bad. Mm-hmm. And she started spinning because she was a roller skater. And so she would spin, play records for them to skate. But Gail introduced me to Will. Will came in on my Don't Make Me Over album, mm-hmm. and did backgrounds and helped me arrange. And he was phenomenal. And I have been a major fan. That's my brother. That's my friend. That's someone.
I love that story.
When I go to see, it's like, if he's at the Birchmere or wherever we went to see him, in Raleigh, it's just, he's my friend. Mm-hmm. But it felt so good I went home to Paterson, New Jersey, and we did Jazz in the Park. And when I tell you, it was a beautiful day. Mm-hmm. And they said, how do you feel about working with Will? I said, are you kidding me? And he said the same thing. He said, that's my sister. So it was perfect.
Oh,
and so, so those types of things. And Will actually used to sell out Wembley in the UK. He mm-hmm. would do 3 nights with no problem. So what I'm saying is that people, they think that because you may do, 1,000-seater here.
Right.
I go to South Africa and I do 5, 6, 7,000. That's the small. That's mm-hmm. a small.
Wow.
And I do the Grand West, which is one of the big. I do the larger venues, mm-hmm. and so it's really cool. But I still love doing the smaller ones too. Because you connect differently.
Yeah, come on down here to Charlotte and perform.
Look, I'm hoping that happens. I'm looking forward to that happening, because I have family in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. I'm not that far from Charlotte.
I didn't think so. When you just mentioned Raleigh, I was like, wait a minute.
I am not that far. As a matter of fact, my aunt just bought a home there. My cousin is in, my friend is in Harrisburg. Mm-hmm. Look, I have family in Charlotte. And I'm an Aggie. I graduated from North Carolina A&T State University.
Oh, yeah. I was going to address that
too. So I'm a Jersey girl who came south to go to school. And so I have a lot of ties in the state. Yes. Yeah.
So since you brought up, I heard, I was listening to an interview, I think it was on Halftime Chat. And you mentioned you were Miss A&T.
I was.
Tell me
1984.
about that.
1984, 1985. Let me tell you, I'm so not this girl. I'm not that girl. Okay, let me go there. And what happened was I was a North Carolina fellow, and which was the Academic Leadership Honor Program.
Mhm.
My parents paid out of state tuition at first, I mean, literally. And so one of the things that I was extremely good at, and I think I had friends who were in different D9 organizations,
Mhm.
parts of different clubs. And I got along with a lot of people from all backgrounds. And one of the things that I said, I ran because I thought, I was tired. I remember people said, Sybil, your speech. They remember my speech. And besides that, whenever they needed somebody to sing somewhere, I was like, I got you. It was a fashion show. It didn't matter. I was always singing somewhere.
Uh-huh.
It was a talent show. They stopped letting me do the talent shows because they were like, forget it. Sybil never forget it, And it was actually really cool, But what happened was I ran because I felt as if I wanted to go into politics, I thought, or at least in government. I wanted to work for the Federal Communications Commission. Mm-hmm. That was my goal, to be an attorney. And so I thought, let me use this platform. I had no idea. Let me tell you, there were women, young girls and young women that I thought were gorgeous. They were pretty, they were nice. Mm-hmm. I was cute, but that was, again, I was not that, right. And, but one thing that I was real. And I think that people were ready for that. Mm-hmm. I was articulate. I was also very active in campus activities. Mm-hmm. And so I think that that's what we were looking for. Yeah. And I became the first Miss A&T to sing. I sang at my coronation. And from that point on, they almost made it like a prerequisite that you had to have a talent. But it was just because I was just doing what I wanted to do. Yeah. I was a creative. And so, and I love my Aggies. I support A&T. I support the College of Arts and Science. There, I'm a member of Ladies of A&T. So the philanthropic arm of the college. I believe in education. I believe that HBCUs have the capacity to do a great deal. You're talking about a girl who went to a Catholic high school, was always that Black girl in an AP English or an AP, math. Yeah. And I wanted to go somewhere where there were a whole lot of people that looked like me, who had the same kind of abilities and or aspirations. And A&T fit for me. Now, my aunts and uncle who went to Central and went to Winston-Salem State and Fayetteville State, they weren't that happy.
But, sure.
But in the end, they realized that was the best fit for me. Coming out of Jersey, that was the best fit for me.
Yeah. I think I love hearing from different people what made them to pick an HBCU, because I don't think I knew anything about it to pick one. So I went out of state to a school in Tennessee, which, in hindsight, for me, that was the best choice. Yes, but I do wish I had that HBU experience.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that a lot of my friends, it was so funny. I remember when I said I was going to attend A&T, and they were looking at me like, what? Because I had a full scholarship at Rutgers, full ride.
Wow.
My dad's like, okay. And I tell this story because it's so true. My dad said, if I pay out of state tuition, it's going to be to my home state. If it's not New Jersey, it's going to be my home state. My father's from Eastern North Carolina. And so, and that really ultimately, and I went to visit the other schools. And what happened is I came to visit my aunt who graduated from Central, said, well, since we're here, let's go over to A&T. And I ended up coming, and it was, I saw this fabulous Blackness, and I saw these beautiful sisters and these fine Black men. I thought, oh my God. And it was, they were on their plots, and it was just the energy and the vibe. And so I knew what the other experience was like, because I grew up in the throes of predominantly white institutions. Mm-hmm. So I knew what that was like. And, and I engaged in activities being in a Catholic high school in New Jersey. I'll put it this way. They never talked to us about historically Black colleges and universities. Mm. It was Rutgers. It was always private schools. State schools, of course, but it took my family to make the decision to introduce me. But mm-hmm. I knew what came from them. And I think that for me was the kind of catalyst for me to say, yeah, I can do this. Because my aunts and uncles, they were brilliant. They still are brilliant people. And for me, that meant everything. And so I wanted that experience.
Now, did you sing in high school or, growing up? And is that kind of you just took that with you to college? And then how did you like make that into a career? Because it's like, like you said, you were on the track to become a lawyer.
Well, the funny thing, I've always sang, I grew up singing in church. Okay. I attended St. Luke Baptist Church in Paterson, New Jersey, got baptized there, sang in the youth choir and then young adult choir. And then in high school, and even so all through grammar school and high school, I got into theater, musical theater. And so between church and theater and performance, it was just kind of what I did. It was what I enjoyed. As a matter of fact, I played softball in high school, and the coach was like, "You can't do both." And so going into my junior year, I had to make a decision that I was not going to play softball anymore, because to me, I'm sitting there, what am I going to do with that? What am I going to do with that? Because I'm in the throes. I grew up right outside 12 miles west of New York City. And I knew that theater and that the options of theater and music was probably was going to be more in my wheelhouse than softball. And so needless to say, I grew up, I sang, and my mom sang, my aunt sang. They were in a girl group in this, in the early 60s, 50s, 60s, late 50s, 60s. And my cousin, Maxine, is an original member of the group In Vogue. So I come from a family of singers. And her dad was saying, was one of the deacons, and they were the ones, that thing, they were that, Uncle Doug, Uncle Gans, Uncle Eddie, that was them, So I grew up in a house where music was always around. And the funny thing is that I never ever thought about music as a profession. I didn't. It was something that I enjoyed doing. That's why I didn't major in music, because people thought I was going to go to Berkeley or go to study music, and I didn't. But it was funny because, like I'm going back, my friends, when I decided to go to HBCU, they were like, you scored as well as I did on SATs. I said, that's not so they try to diminish the quality of education a lot of times. And so for me, my experience there, coupled with my growing up in northern New Jersey, in a predominantly white environment, it was perfect. It really made me who I've become, and my take on life. I understand nuances that go on between having to exist and have to oftentimes switch it up, to switch it up. Code, they call it code switching, but I know what that looks like. And I do it not for my company, but to make them comfortable. Sometimes you're in an environment where I'm comfortable, but others aren't.
Exactly.
So I'm at that place, and then it helped me traveling, because I'm saying this, most of my audiences outside of the US don't look like us. They don't look like us, and they love my music, and they love what I bring as an artist. And they see my blackness, because I remember someone said, I just don't see color. I said, please, I want you to see my color.
Oh, I like that.
I want you to see. I said, because if you say you don't see my color, you don't see me. And so, because people think that that's flattering. I know what you're trying to say, but I want you, don't use that phrase to try to feel as if you're kind of, connected to me.
Yeah. Wow. I'm just curious, what did you major in?
I was professional speech and theater arts major with a broadcast journalism emphasis, and a minor in psychology. And my advanced degree, my master's, is in leadership studies and adult education.
And what do you, I know you said you're in higher education. What do you teach?
I'm a college advancement officer now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was an instructor, then I was director of a program, an integrated service delivery program. And then I became the interim director for our foundation. And I did that. It exposed me to a different aspect of the college, because the foundation is separate from the curriculum and it's very different. And then the college created a position for me based on a study that was done. And let me just say, it's really good to do your work and do it well. Yeah. Because the board said, I don't care what you do with anybody else, but you better find. And I said, that's a blessing. So I'm a college advancement officer. I'm the first one at this institution. And I like working with donors. I like working with, because I'm a real advocate for at-risk and marginalized populations. And I understand the stories and I understand what it takes to keep students connected. So I'm at a community college, and for me, it's very much like Central Piedmont. And very much like Central Piedmont in Charlotte. It's one of those things where we understand our role. I could probably work at a 4-year institution. However, it probably would not be as fulfilling because at a community college, it's a different type of learner.
Yeah.
It's a different type of learner. And the preparation that they need comes with a whole lot of other stuff. You have less, a lot of them are not traditional. At 4 years, I knew attending A&T, I knew I was ready. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that it was up to me to be successful.
Right.
But you're talking about the average age of a community college attendee is 23, 24. We don't get a whole lot of the traditional straight out of high school. We get a lot, but we don't get as many as we do of the 23, 24, now even 25. That's the average.
Right.
Age. Yeah.
Okay. Because my day job, we have a program that helps, that age range go to school. So totally get it. Totally get it.
Yeah. And I love it because I work with a lot of community. I'm very involved with the community, Gifford County community. I've been on committees in terms of when we had COVID issues and a task force that helped with kind of disperse funding for nonprofits. And because at the end of the day, my students and the students that we serve, they have families. And so housing insecurity, food insecurity, transportation, childcare, all of that is a big deal. And for me, I feel as if it's fulfilling because when you're able to impact a person's life, where they're able to thrive, where they're able to see that someone cares, that doesn't have doesn't have to necessarily, but cares intentionally. That's fulfilling to me. And so, I continue to do it. And I said, look, I'm going to give the state 2.5, maybe 3 more years and then I'm done.
Well, so how do you juggle that with since you still do shows and stuff, do you just say, I'm taking PTO, I'll be back?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Let me say absolutely. And they know it. But see, when they hired me and asked me, they knew what they were getting. And so there are times, when I'm gone, 10 days, 2 weeks, I have to, I need that in order to be able to be impactful and effective in the roles that I've had. And I tried to be honest with you. When I was an instructor in the classroom, there were times that I just didn't schedule shows because I had enough time at other times to be able to do it. And so, I take personal time off and I almost dare them to tell me that I can't take it because it's like, I've earned this. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
Like, seriously, I've earned this. And I've got so much sick leave that if I decide to go and say, look, I need some mental health time, I'm taking it.
There you go. Yeah.
And so, but they've never, I have to be honest, they have been really, really wonderful and supportive because they knew what they were getting when they hired me.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So how did you end up hooking up with CeCe Rogers? Because, I'll just let you tell the story because I'm like, how did this even happen? Like you are at A&T, then you're working with CeCe Rogers. How connect that?
Well, let me say this. I actually was working with, the funny thing is I was working with a publishing company out of college and I was an editor and a proofreader for a publishing company in New Jersey. And they were performing at Club 88 pretty much every weekend. Their manager ran 2 clubs in the city in East Orange, New Jersey. And so CeCe had a band. And so one of the things I always joke and said, it was called CeCe and Company. I always say I was the company. The company. And what ended up happening is that I went down one night and we were sitting in the audience and she became my tour manager, road manager for a long time. They were asking, excuse me, is there anyone who sings? And I was just sitting there, sitting there enjoying the music. And so she's next to me going pointing like at her. And so he came over and I'm looking at, looking around like, what is this? So he put the mic in my face and I looked at him like, I'm not going to see. So she's like, girl, sing. And excuse me. And so I did, and he was like, blown away.
Yeah.
And so inevitably what ended up happening was he said, well, can you come back next week? The band said, can you come back next week? We'll do a couple of songs, we'll learn a couple of songs. What songs do you like? And that was how it started with CeCe Rogers and Mr. Someday. Yes. And it's funny because then I ended up working with CeCe Peniston and I said, all these CeCe's around me, right? How'd that happen? Yeah.
So I wondered if, because I think it was there's been a couple artists where they've talked about how maybe, I'm trying to think of how to word it, like, because in an industry where it's so focused on what you look like versus sometimes what you sound like. So how did you have any challenges with that? Because I know even today, even with just like journalism, it's still broadcasting, it's still the same stuff.
Yes, yes. Oh, let me say, I remember my mother was so upset. Let me tell you, when I got into the industry, I was probably a size 7, okay, maybe a 9 at the largest. And I'll never forget them telling me that I was too big. I was too big. And I thought, wait a minute. They told me I was too big. I ended up getting myself sick, trying to fit within the parameters that a very thin, emaciated looking white woman who considered herself, I'm gonna be honest, considered herself, an A&R and for the label. And I thought, are you serious? You look anorexic. You look sick. And it was actually interesting. So, and then also I was not light skinned. I wasn't extremely dark, but I wasn't light either. I wasn't light bright. And I didn't wear, I didn't mind having hair, but I had hair, but it was like having weaves and having, was a big deal. But that wasn't my story, And then I felt as if I was cowtailing to industry that really wasn't accepting of me as I was. But the funny thing is that when they were calling me plus size, I think I was maybe 10, 12, and I was plus, and I didn't mind that. I always say I was zoftically built anyway, I didn't gain weight until after I started making money because I could afford to eat, drink, and do what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? So I was sitting there thinking, man, so they will have you, the industry will have you thinking certain things. But I remember a time when it really was about the artist, because when I think about the generation that my mom, Aretha, when I think of Gladys, when I think of Dion, when I think they all had a look, they all had their own look, exactly. And they weren't small women, and it was really about the artist. And so then it turned to where it was really jumped back to being about the artist. So yes, I faced those types of discriminations because I didn't fit the mold, and let me say this, but also what was the model? What was it supposed to look like? Because quite honestly, I could run circles around most of the people intellectually, let's go there. I knew for the most part, if you wanted to sit down and have a conversation with me and talk about what was relevant and pertinent to what was going on, I could have that. Not many of them could. So you can go ahead and do that. You don't have to coax me, prepare me, train me. I'm always ready because I learned. I'm an educated Black woman in a society that says that I have to be above and beyond. I have to be more than. And I remembered that because I came into an industry already having shown my Black girl magic. Okay. Before that was a term.
Right.
And so I think that, when this industry changed, and I refused to fall into that, and I experienced it. I'll tell you one in particular that bothered me is that I did the vocals on Salt and Pepper stuff. And on one of their records, Independent, song Independent, that is me all over that. And I remember them, I said, well, are they going to do the video? They did a video for it. I wasn't in the video. And they were lip syncing, and they got backlash behind that because they were like, wait a minute, that's Sybil singing. They knew that we were label mates. But I took it as an affront, like, oh, I wasn't cute enough. And I'm sitting there thinking, quite honestly, I'm as cute as they are, But those types of things happened. And, they tried to justify it. I was working quite a lot. I was out of the country. However, when they did my Crazy for You, when they did the little soundbite and did the rap on my Crazy for You, you made a point to get some tape of them doing that. So don't relegate me to being less than because of a society that was kind of questioning whether I was pretty enough, cute enough, or relevant enough. And so, yes, I experienced that, and it bothers me. But it also, what I got excited about was when there were other artists who were ample, like big girls. I'm talking about big girls.
Yeah.
Who came out and asserted who they were. And it was just different times changed. When neo soul, you have the zoftically built, healthy, beautiful women that were coming out. Jill Scott, comes to mind.
Yeah.
Fabulous. She was not, but just bad. You know what I'm saying? Who came out? Marsha Ambrosius, when she first came out, was not supposed. I mean, there were a lot of really Angie Stone. There were a lot, but just bad. And so I saw the change in what was being said. They were like, look, it's really about the artist. You know, you're gonna have your fabulous Rihannas and Beyonces, and no, they're gorgeous, beautiful. You know. But there are other women who look different who are just as beautiful. You know, you have the India Aries who are chocolate and Afrocentric. We have to be welcoming and embrace difference. You know, if it's about the talent, let it be about the talent. You know, because men get away with a whole lot more than women can get away with.
Right.
You know, I'm like, whoa. You're like, he's not too easy on the eyes, but he's sure can sing. You know, you know, like, oh my God. Yeah.
It's I was just thinking like, you know, when Don't Make Me Over came out, because I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina, so we didn't have and I still don't think they have. You know, you could, if you stand in the right spot in the house, you could pick up Power 98 from Charlotte. But otherwise, you're going to hear like the pop stations or country.
Yes.
And so I would hear your song. I think it would be maybe when I would listen to like Casey Kasem or something like that. And you could not tell me I wasn't Sybil with my hairbrush until
I love it. I love it. Oh, I love it. I love it.
I used to have whole concerts.
I love it. And you know what I do like, and I appreciate about that record is that it was just a clean record. It was just a good record. And it was timely because the thing it was about, I think I really embraced it because it says, don't make me, accept me for what I am, accept me for the things that I do. I knew that this woman who had been scrutinized and, you know, torn apart, like, you know, as not being accepted because of, she didn't look this or I finally was like, look, you know what? Don't make me over. Accept me for what I am. Accept me for the things that I do. You know, now that you know how don't make me over. Now that you know how I adore you. Come on. You know, please. Yeah. And the adore came back to me. It's like, I had to look in the mirror and sing that to myself. You know
what? Just as you just said those words, I was like, because I'm on this whole affirmation thing right now.
Yes.
I'm going to add this to my list because I'm like, you're right.
Yeah. Because it causes you a lot of times. And as a woman of faith, you know, it's like, you know, we think God, you know, that, and I say this, you know, I don't know what the listeners, but who I am is who I am. And one of the things is that where there's fear, faith cannot exist. And so I am standing in faith, trusting that God didn't bring me to certain points of my life for me not to, you know, embrace it. And so I had to get to that place where I started accepting who I was. But I had to keep affirming myself because society won't always do that. Right. You know, mama and them will do that, you know, and auntie so-and-so and Nana and Papa, they will do that. But society as a whole will not often give you what you need to feel fabulous and to feel great, you know? And so you have to take it where you can get it. And that's the place that I came from. That's where I, you know, how I got through. And I always joke because Don't Make Me Over, I did Walk On By.
Yeah.
And I remember telling people, I said, if they want to make you over, you tell them to walk on by. And everybody would laugh. They would follow. They were like, that's because it's like, you know, I'm okay. I'm good.
Yeah. Did you talk to Dionne Warwick after that? I mean, I'm sure seeing her on social media now, she seems like very vocal about any and everything.
She's very vocal, and I will say this, and let me say, you know, I don't know how happy she was that it was a big hit for me. However, when it went gold, I did receive correspondence from her. Because Dionne is a pistol, you know, but you know, I wasn't trying to do, I was just doing a record that happened to blow up, you know, and do well. And it is what it is. It was a hit for her first hit in 1960. I wasn't even born then. You know, so, you know, but it became a hit for me, became a big, big record for me. And I think that, in some instances, you know, that can create, issues for people. I don't care how fabulous. I love Dionne. I love her bodies of work. And she did a lot of work with Burt Bacharach and Hal David, and a lot of hit records she had with them.
Yeah. So I have to ask because I love Soul Train with my whole chest.
Yes,
I wrote for the website for 5 years. That's really where I got my training ground.
yeah.
I just immersed myself in it because I was like, I'm never going to be a Soul Train dancer, so I might as well do it right. And I'm never going to be able to sing. So.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
What was it like being on Soul Train?
It was surreal. It was absolutely the most surreal experience of my life. Probably one of the highlights of my career, because we grew up little black girl. I mean, we had Soul Train was our American bandstand.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And Soul Train, Don Cornelius could do no wrong as far as I was concerned.
Right.
I mean, I was in there trying to pop lock and, doing all of this and I was that girl too. So to end up being when they said I was doing Soul Train, I felt like I had literally gone to just another place. And it was a great experience. And it was so funny because if you see the show and you see him ask me a question, I had him laugh because it was just, I was just being myself. But he didn't know. I was sitting there thinking like, this is Don Cornelius. Are you serious? Like, really? And so I was tense at first.
Yeah.
But he was absolutely, it was incredible. And the funny thing is that the space is not that big. Like the studio was not that big. But he was larger than life.
I bet.
He was larger than life. And so I count that as probably one of the highlights of my life. Yeah. And then I'll follow that by doing the Apollo.
Yes, I was going to ask about the Apollo.
And the Apollo.
I still watch that on Tubi.
Yes, because I'm going to tell you something. The thing is that your fear, I don't care, because I've been there when they have booed an artist with a hit record because they could not deliver the song. And it was like, I mean, they didn't care who you were. That audience, I was petrified.
Oh, yeah.
Petrified. But that too was amazing. And then the funny thing is that the lady, I used to always come up to the stage. Her son ended up working at the agency that used to do my bookings and manage me. And it was absolutely the craziest thing ever. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't have to, you didn't interact at all with Mr. Sandman.
No, he was not going to be pulling me off stage. Let me tell you something. That would have been the first time there'd have been a fight, probably. Like we'd have been fighting. That would have gone down. It would have been one of those. But I didn't have to worry about that. But the sad part is that when I literally was there because they do tapings and different. And it was an art, and I will never say who it is. But it was like they came on stage and they were horrible, and the audience, boo, boo. I was like, we were like, oh my God, we were in the back. And I'm gonna tell you this. I did that show. My background singers were the group Changing Faces. Teresa and Cassandra were my background singers at that time. They traveled with me around the globe, and they ended up getting their own deal. Yeah.
Wow. I think I've had a couple people ask where they are now, and
yeah,
I'm like, it's on my list. It's on my list.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
I love that. Let's see. I took all these notes and just kind of haven't really looked at them. Well, okay. So Karen Wheeler's I Adore You.
I adore you. That's me.
Yes, I was gonna say.
Yes.
Honestly, back then I thought the whole song was you.
Let me say this: a lot of people did. As a matter of fact, my mother called me. She said, "I heard your new song," and I was like, "No, it's not out yet, Mom. I know my daughter's voice." And my mother was livid, and I'll never forget. I was so upset because I loved Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. And I thought, and it was that song was done for the Mo Money soundtrack.
Yeah.
I said, why didn't they just get me to do the song? Rather than take the I Adore You from Don't Make Me Over.
Right.
Why didn't they just have me do the song? But I love Karen Wheeler. I actually worked with Soul to Soul, Jazzy Jeff this July. When was it? June, July? In June. I did a festival in the UK. And Jazzy, it was so funny. I had my glasses on. He said, take your glasses off. And he said, those are the eyes. And it was so cool to run into Soul to Soul and the crew, some of the guys. So it was really a good, I loved traveling and seeing other artists because usually it was just real genuine and cool, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, Karen Wheeler, really sweetheart. And I love her voice, but I really was kind of upset. I was like, I mean, I remember going to call the president of the label and I was going off.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, so do I get points? I was literally pissed off.
Yeah, I would be
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I was like, they paid you? Well, how come I'm not paid? It was one of those things. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just knew that was you back then.
Yeah.
I was like, yep, that's
Yes.
her.
Yeah. Yes. And it's so funny because there are parts of some hip hop songs where there's snippets of my voice. Troop,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, R&B groups. And I laugh and I said, you know what? It's okay though. It is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how does that work? Because do they have to get your permission if it is your voice, or is it just they have to go through the writer or the producer?
They go through the label. They go through who owns the rights. So if the label owns the rights, basically they can just do what they want.
Right.
And so whoever owns the record, the master, and that was a cover. So of course I didn't own the masters to that.
Right.
But the label owned the rights to that. So it was what it was. Mm-hmm. And I remember at a show one time, somebody asked me and I thought, yeah, I probably should just get on up there and just do the part because it's me. Yeah.
So we're going to hop into the fan segment because, they submitted some questions.
Okay.
One person wanted to know, what current artists do you listen to?
Oh, I'm a Gregory Porter. Love Gregory Porter. Absolutely just love him. I love gospel. So I love Jonathan McReynolds is probably high on my list in terms of gospel artists. Maverick City gospel, Tasha Cobb Leonard. So there's my gospel. And I love Rayson Paterson. Mm-hmm. I love Lettucey. I like a lot of the soul, a lot of the ones who just have this thing, that's just really special. Yeah. And so, and these, and the funny thing is that, I mean, and I like some of the younger, like I like Coco Jones. I think I like her voice. And of course I like Bruno Mars before Silk Sonic, and so there are a lot of artists, and it really honestly, there are a lot of artists that I like. A lot of the young ones sound alike to me, sound alike to me. But I do appreciate what they have to offer. I like Lizzo because Lizzo's fun, she's fun and she's interesting. So that's who I, listen to, but I love a lot of, I still like a lot of the house stuff, the old school house stuff. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
So just, yeah.
Okay. So, and I was wondering this question too, and somebody asked it. Have you ever thought about doing a gospel album?
It's funny that you say that because I don't know if I would call it gospel. Because I'm in discussions now with some producers because they're very interested because I'm a praise team facilitator. And so and I love gospel, but I feel as if I'm more, inspirational.
Okay.
It is gospel, but I feel as if it's more inspirational. I think that's probably why I like Jonathan Reynolds and like Doe. I love Doe. And I love Maverick City. I like that type of gospel. I'll say that.
Right.
That's the kind of gospel. And I love praise and worship. Mm-hmm. And so that would probably be the direction that I would go. And so, yes, I thought about it and it has been brought to me and when I do my live shows, I generally would do an inspirational piece.
Okay.
And so, yeah, because it's part of who I am. Mm-hmm. I can't help it. God gave me the gift. And so I feel as if I'm giving him back, what he's given to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. Next question is there an artist that you want to work with that you haven't had a chance to work with yet? And then I'm going to piggyback on that and ask if there's a producer that you want to work with.
An artist. Let me I think about that because they're Gregory Porter. I would love to work with Gregory Porter. To be honest, I would absolutely love because that would bring a new facet to what I do and who I am because I grew up listening to jazz and classic R&B and soul, and I love that. And I played classical, but I love classical music too. I played the violin growing up. And so I'm just, yeah. And so I would love to work with Gregory Porter. Absolutely love Layla Hathaway. Absolutely love. So yeah. And I always joke and I said if Marvin Gaye was still alive, that's who I would be just trying to. I guess October London would probably be close. He's amazing. He is the reincarnation of Marvin Gaye. And he's so October London, if you get a chance, it's frightening how good he is. So yeah. In terms of a producer, I love let me see, gosh. I don't know. I don't know in terms of, I think I'd have to work with a producer who would get an old school, who understands the old school vibe.
Right.
And because you can't, I find a lot of the younger ones, they want you to do all this. And I'm like, that's not me. That's not me. So it would have to be a producer who understands old school soul, know, R&B and classic R&B, even classic pop, just because the chord structure and the way that the songs are created is different. Yeah.
That's true. Huh. Okay. Do you think, and I see people talking about this sometimes, about what is missing in music today?
What is missing is depth. Yeah. I think, and a lot, there's a lot, and not a lot of creativity. I mean, everyone's trying to sound like the next, but they sound like the previous. They don't. It's like there's not a whole lot of. You can't distinguish who's who and what's what. Yeah. Like you could back in the day. When you heard Aretha, you knew that was Aretha. When you heard Gladys, you knew that was Gladys. When you heard Chaka, you knew that was Chaka. When you heard Stevie, you knew that was Stevie. When you heard Luther, you knew it was Luther. Right. The thing is that right now, it's like they all sound that they morphed into the same person with a different name in a lot of instances. And so that's what's missing. The lack of creativity and the fear, the fear that comes along with doing something that's different. Yes. I think that there's a fear. If you go too far left, it's like, ooh, they're not going to embrace that. If you go too far right, so they stay in a lane that's already occupied, and it's just, and so that to me is what's missing. And then lyrics, really strong lyrics. I mean, I joke and talk about songs like I can sing the lyrics to every song on Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life. I could sing on Phyllis Hyman's projects. I could sing on Anita Baker's. I could sing. I mean, I know the word, even the filler, the album fillers, right. OJ's. I mean, literally, Carole King Tapestry album, one of my favorites, believe it or not, from the 70s. So where's that? That's what I want. I want that that's what I want. I want a project like that,
Yeah. Yeah. And they all look alike too. Like, like, I don't know. That's not the same person.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's and that's what's really makes it difficult a lot of times, or palatable for me to listen to some radio stations, because you're like, okay, all right,
right. So what are you working on now? Are you working on new music, or are you just still planning to do some shows on your PTO, or what? I know you mentioned that they brought the gospel idea to you, but are you actively in the studio?
Ironically, I am actively in the studio working on a project actually with a North African, because I do have a large following in Africa. I'm working with a North Africa Moroccan producer, and his good friend is like my little brother, and so they're working on a project. And they're like, Sybil, we want you on part. So I'm actually writing and doing work for that project. One of my other good friends I worked with years ago, who's had great success with Cardi B and some of these other hip hop artists, but he still he's like, look, sis, I need you back, because we made some we created some great records that are sitting there. And I said, that's the way we made those great records, we can make others. Yeah. And so it's been that's what it's been. I've been creative because I can't help but to be creative.
Right.
And then I worked Michael K. Storm was a local radio personality, but he's also a gospel artist. And I worked on his project with him. And so that's the discussion about doing a gospel project.
Okay. Now it makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm always going to be writing. I'm always going to be creating. I'm actually preparing for, we're doing the Unity Festival on a Saturday with my band. So I'm excited about that. And it's going to be really cool. It's in honor, African American and Latin heritage, Hispanic Heritage Month. So it's just going to be really cool. A really good vibe. And so we've got 7 pieces, 3 background singers, 4-piece band, and then me. And so I do work.
Yeah.
I do
like
work.
You're staying busy.
Yes. I have to. I have to. I think, and they say, idle mind is the devil's workshop. It is,
It is.
So
yes, it is.
It is. Because I'm telling you, because you be thinking, you're like, wait a minute, hold up. Why am I thinking like this?
Right.
I got too much time on my hand, Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I just want to thank you so much for coming on Check the Rhymes. This has been so fun. And I know at first I was like, it only be 20 minutes, but then I was like, I would have kept her way too long.
That's okay. Shamika, I really appreciate you reaching out, and I wish you all the best with Check the Rhymes, because I want them to start checking the rhymes. Some of these youngsters need to start checking the rhymes. Okay. Okay.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Yes. And so if I'm ever going to be in Charlotte, I'm going to let you know.
Please do. Please do.
Let you know. Yeah, I'm going to let you know. And it's funny, I may be there I'm a member of a sorority. And so I said, we may be there for some stuff.
I am too. We'll talk about that after this, but I do want you to tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
I am Sybil Sings and everything. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'm Sybil Sings, period.
You're over there on the TikTok.
I know, right? And I don't know how to tick nor talk. I just be there.
Me either.
I always joke, but I like to go. I like to, I guess, post other people's stuff, you know. And so I find it interesting. That's what I find. I find it interesting. Instagram, I've gotten better about that because, but I guess because I would say I'm an old fart. So Facebook, it's like, look, I figured that out. But at the end of the day, literally, Sybil Sings, and my agency in terms of booking is Dynaco Entertainment, which is Dino. You've been corresponding with Dino.
Yeah, I had when I saw his name, I had a flashback because my ex's name was Dino, and I was like, oh, geez, no.
You're saying no, I know, right? Yes.
Right. I was like, that cannot be this man's name.
But he's a good. Dino and I worked together for years. We grew up in the industry, and he worked for a major label, and he works in New York and does New York radio, and he's in production, and so. But we've been friends for a long time, and he was the one that said, "Look, why aren't you back out working?" And kind of was really the catalyst of the push that I needed. So I appreciate having a solid, solid team, and then overseas I have a really good team as well. So yeah.
Yeah, well, he's been great. So it gave me some relief. Like, ooh, it's not the same person.
I am glad. Yes, but I enjoyed this. I really appreciate the questions, and so again, Sybil's gonna check the rhymes. Okay,
I love it. Thank you so much.